unusual. Normally we're a couple of minutes late. StreamYard gives me these warnings like, hey, Facebook doesn't like it if you're 10 minutes late, and they will cancel you. They canceled.
Man, yeah, cancel culture is just out of control in this country.
Just can't do anything anymore.
Facebook has an automatic cancel culture setting.
Just can't do anything anymore.
Actually, it's not even a setting. It's just automatic.
Will they cancel me if I expose my genitalia to you?
Not to me, but if you do it on the feed, yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, in what context me?
I had a really good spam/scam email in that regard, actually, about 2 days ago. I got an email addressed to Eric Smaley's in poor English, purporting to be someone who had hacked my webcam and videoed me jacking off and was trying to blackmail me to pay them into not releasing it to my old contact list. So
yeah,
that was fun.
One of those too.
Yeah, I was so if you guys get an email attachment about me in the next day or two, open that thing up.
We'll know that you're a cheap ass.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't from Kickstarter, so.
I do right by Kickstarter. They take care of me.
Yeah, no shit. Our support box got a lot of those emails, and I would always reply and be like, "Hey, Alden, you should probably pay these people."
Fantastic. Yeah, so our house went from, man, we really hope that Erin can get her vaccination before she goes to do any of her summer camps this year, to now we're looking at she will have both of her shots and will be like, she's doing 3 camps in 3 weeks. She'll be like 4 days past getting both shots by the time her first camp, which is just like a half-day thing. Mm-hmm. But when she goes to the sleepaway camp, like an hour south of here in Missouri, which is the one I was most worried about, in all honesty, she'll be fully vaccinated. So
hot vax summer.
It is. It's going to be a hot vax summer. I got to actually go out and play BattleTech last weekend. Mm-hmm. That was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
I've been going out nonstop.
Taking full advantage of the vaccine coursing through your body.
Mm-hmm. Trying to spray it all over as many people as possible.
So Julie told me there's a new push from the anti-vax community to wear their masks. Have you heard about this?
I read about this. Yeah,
where they want people to now wear their masks because they're concerned that the people who are vaccinated are going to get their proteins on you, and you don't know what that's going to do to you who have not taken the vaccination.
Yeah, you might accidentally spread vaccine juice.
Yeah. Apparently, we are a threat to them.
Well, I mean, the the nanobots replicating in our blood are, the
5G is just going to jump right to them. I'm really disappointed in this 5G thing because it's just not working, though. I think I got a bad batch.
Yeah, you're like a bad.
You haven't been upgraded yet?
I guess not.
That's unfortunate for you.
Yeah.
I can now stream directly into my brain, so I'm feeling great.
You and Elon Musk.
Yeah, that's great company.
That guy sucks.
A little bit. He's not the best, as it turns out.
So, I completely blanked. What is the movie that you suggested that we watch for next week? Bad Education?
Bad Education. I will link.
But not the one that I'm
not
aware of.
you are aware of. It's on HBO Max.
Okay.
You can find it.
Bad Education. Is this like
Because there should be
Bad
another one.
Educación.
There should be
This
another
is-
one on HBO Max.
La mala
That is the one that
educación.
I am aware of.
Yeah, the first thing that came up for me was Bad Education 2004, rated NC-17,
That's
and I
it.
have to assume that's the one.
That's it.
Okay.
Oh, Eric, you don't even know the ride you're in for on this bad boy. It is a ride.
All right.
An examination on the effect of Franco-era religious schooling and sexual abuse on the lives of two longtime friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a ride, boys.
That is a different movie than the one I saw.
Yes.
That is by the same name.
I suspect it is. But
Yeah, apparently-
Pedro Almodovar might be my new favorite director.
All right.
I'm gonna start working my way through his filmography.
Cool. I guess we'll have something to talk about next week then.
And it is in Espanol for you gringos. So.
But do they dub it?
Oh,
Ooh, I don't know. I just watched it in Spanish.
Yeah. I mean, I'll have to watch it subtitled. I
I also watched it
I don't speak Spanish at all.
Don't let me confuse you by saying, by implying that I watched it in Spanish, for the Spanish.
understanding it in Spanish.
Oh, I definitely watched it subtitled.
Like the best I got for Spanish is I can order at Taco Bell.
Well, you can also tell people that you want Taco Bell.
True, I can.
There was a very large marketing campaign to teach you how to do that.
That is 100% true.
I can definitely say no more.
But are you living Mas? That's the real question.
I don't think I am.
I think post-pandemic, I'm living 40 pounds Mas.
Mas
Very
Ramen.
nice.
Right there also.
Apparently I had one successful project over the quarantine, and it was an expansion.
I had that. I had my my 111 my so far 111 day streak on Duolingo.
That's
Nice.
Just
many days.
Keep going, keep rolling.
Which
Wow,
language?
German.
What does the bird even do? When it's not harassing you that you haven't done your Duolingo for the day, what does it do?
It dances. It does this
Ew.
little dance. Well, it's just when you complete a
task.
a lesson.
I prefer to be harassed.
So does this mean you're going to be watching the Spanish movie with the German subtitles, or
Probably.
Be good practice.
the way God intended?
So the thing that I really enjoyed when I was taking German in high school was my dad used to watch a lot of war movies, and it was funny just how poorly they spoke German in the war movies, and how frequently they were saying things that were not what was being subtitled. They were stringing together German words, and it was just that's not a sentence. and the subtitle was something completely different. It was fantastic.
Yeah. There's a few subtitle weirdnesses with Bad Education we can get into.
All right.
When we watched the movie.
You'll have to tell me about them because I don't speak the language, so I won't be aware at all. We were so Mother's Day, Holden had to work, and we had to drop him off.
Typical
at work.
Holden.
Yeah.
Oh God, that guy.
Yeah. So we're just you know what? Let's go to brunch there. They're doing a Mother's Day brunch. Let's just go. So we can see him for a few minutes. So we went, and they had this sign that was it was cerveza, which I know what that one is. And it was like these vintage signs, and I don't speak the language, and I was like, what does that word mean? And it was FRIAS.
Frias.
Frias. And Julie's like, well, considering there's a muy in front of it and it's a beer ad, I'm pretty sure that's cold. Yeah. She's like, when I took Spanish, we learned, I think she said frios.
Wow, that'd be for
Like,
a
I am,
masculine. That would be a
yeah.
masculine noun.
Right. And that's what she was saying too. Like that it's because it was cerveza, that's frias would be.
Las cervezas frías.
Yeah. And it was advertising that the beer is cold, apparently. So I learned a little bit more Spanish. That's all I got.
I appreciate your cultural sensitivity.
Expanding my knowledge as right along with my waistline.
I will be looking for a dub.
I probably will also, but I'm not above reading.
I wish I had watched it dubbed because they use the Andalusian S pronunciation, where they don't pronounce the S, they pronounce it a th, like a th, and that drives me up the fucking wall. I cannot stand it. It is just like Spanish, like Spain Spanish uses there's like a whole fifth tense, or there's another tense that they use that like Latin American Spanish doesn't use. I don't like that. I don't like that one either. There's just something about it just seems like
Now who's being culturally insensitive?
Just hard pass.
So this is a Spanish language movie, not a Hispanic Latin American Spanish movie. Okay.
It is a Hispanic movie, but not a Latino movie.
Yes, I remember that conversation now. That long, ridiculous argument.
It matters. It's important to, people.
The people it's important to. All right. Hey, this is Tony.
This is Eric.
And this is David. Quietly seizing
producers
here, looking at Eric's flashing monitor in the back.
Oh, yeah, that's... We're going to need to put a warning on that.
Let me see if I can do something about that right now. Do something about that. Sorry. Issues with my wife's graphics card. Or monitor or something. I don't know. I haven't really taken a look at it.
Well, good thing is video cards are pretty cheap right now, so if you have to replace it, real easy to find, real cheap to get.
Yeah, super easy. I'll just get one of those fancy newfangled. Maybe I'll go bit mining or whatever the kids do these days.
Ruining the environment with your
burn up a forest or two. Sure, yeah,
Just put all your money into Dogecoin.
I'm an old man. That means I can burn down the environment, right?
You're probably not going to be alive for the consequences that we're already experiencing.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, my Bitcoin that I got with PayPal is already 6 times more than it was. Like it's pretty ridiculous. Because PayPal has the 4 that they, I don't know if they're doing more than that, but they offered 4 of them that you could transact through PayPal, and so I just bought $5 in each, just kind of as a thought experiment, just to watch it in real time with real money. And I checked over the weekend, it was $125. I was like, holy shit. I was actually pretty surprising.
That's probably only a couple of acres of forest land burnt down.
Yeah.
It's
a tree or 3. Yeah. I mean, I figure I work at the garden. There's got to be a balance there somewhere.
Yeah.
You've built up some
carbon credit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Oh boy.
I, on the other hand, have been working for Monsanto for 10 years, so I'm already in the red. I mean,
But you name our buildings, so there's that. You do one of our buildings is well, it's no longer Monsanto. It's now the Bear Building.
Yeah, and oh my God, I was listening to the Cardinals game on the radio app while I was grilling earlier, and a Bayer commercial came on because they sponsor the Cardinals, and it came up with our Bayer tagline: "This is why we science." And it's just, I hate it so much.
Mm,
I hate it so much.
wow.
This is definitely how Black Mesa starts.
See, I found it funny that what's really amusing to me is that a couple of years ago we had some an environmentalist group came through St. Louis, and I guess they come through every so often to protest Monsanto.
Oh yeah, we actually get notifications when a planned protest is scheduled.
Yeah, we do too, because the building name.
Yeah.
What's funny is because we're the garden, but we have the Monsanto building, which is now the Bear Building. What we learned is that they like to protest there because it's at a pretty easily accessible intersection. It's easy to get to from the highway. It's close to downtown, and it's closer for the media to get to than the Monsanto campus is. So they like to protest at our building, which is actually a garden building. It's a research center. It's full of nothing but just plant scientists. When they're there.
And frankly, that's been like Bayer buying us actually dramatically expanded the portfolio of the things that the company now the one company works on.
Right.
But when it was Monsanto, I mean, for the last 20 years, plant science was like 99% of what Monsanto did. And I'm talking about literally seed creation, right?
Yep.
They are not into, massive chemical research trials. They haven't been in that space in decades. So
it's an easy target.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like I probably actually need to be careful about exactly what I say, because they do have really strict legal teams watching out for people who talk about the company on social media that work there. I will just say, I'm not saying that I have a 100% positive opinion about every little thing Monsanto, when it was Monsanto, did. But there has been a lot of misconception about what Monsanto even was for years and years and years. So
yeah,
which is normal. It's a huge corporation. That happens. And Bayer even more so, frankly. I mean, now we're now we're big pharma, so we're the ones pushing 5G out in the vaccine. Actually, we didn't make a vaccine, so
slackers.
Yeah, well, apparently there was some internal talk about that too. Like, why weren't we in on any of this stuff? But
well, now that they've pushed the open patents for the vaccines, seems like that might have been a good financial decision.
From a corporate standpoint,
not like they're not going to make a shitload of money off those vaccines anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
come on.
Already have.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Go big pharma, I guess.
Oh, look who it is. Everybody always shits on big pharma, and you get one pandemic, and then look who comes running.
Hey, if it's not for big pharma, I'm not living. So I don't. I take a handful of pills every day. So I more than support big pharma.
Better living through chemistry.
That's right.
I don't. My doctor just won't.
Any living through chemistry.
So.
Well, there's that. Yeah, for me, it's just staying alive through chemistry. It's not even better. It's just keeping breathing.
Existing.
Yeah. All right, so this week we're going to talk about Tenet.
Oh, yeah, a movie.
The movie.
Yeah.
David, what did you think of this movie?
I did not enjoy watching this movie, but I do think the movie was good.
Interestingly, I kind of had the opposite feeling. I largely enjoyed watching it, but I'm not convinced it was actually a good movie.
I thought it was a good movie, and I enjoyed it.
Well, geez, Tony.
Let's get this interesting conversation started then, because 3 different opinions.
I don't know. They're all kind of middle of the road opinions.
I mean, I can hate it if you guys want me to. That's fine.
No, that's fine.
So I will say, Christopher Nolan films have a distinctive and a very, very enjoyable to me cinematography. Like across there's a very distinctive look to a Nolan film for me, and I love it. Like within the first 2 minutes, as they're setting up the attack on the opera house, there's a shot from inside the van where the guy's looking out the window, and it's gray outside, and there's just a couple of sprinkles hitting the windshield. It's not a rain, it's not a mist, just a couple of sprinkles, and like I could smell it. That type of very specific weather, for at least for me, there's an emotional resonance to that kind of thing, to capturing that very specific feel. And the whole movie is kind of like that, where the shots are very deliberate, and the framing of the film evokes emotion to me, and Nolan's always been really good at doing that in his films. So that was why, if nothing else, between that and the fact that the bulk of the film was effectively an extended spy thriller, and I am a huge honk for spy thrillers. I will watch those all day, every day. So it was an easy watch for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on what you're gonna say on what you said there. The light misting rain was very similar to a shot that was in Inception when they were in the helicopter early on in Inception. There was the scenes where they do the truck heist. That very much felt like things we've seen before in Nolan movies. Like, it's just the way he shot it. It's like just watching that scene. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm watching a Christopher Nolan movie. It just screams the angles he shoots, the type of action he shoots. I mean, honestly, that that opening setup where the attack on the opera house, like, it felt like one of the Batman movies. Like, that just felt like one of his Dark Knight movies.
Yep.
Just in the staging of this setup scene, like, I half expected to see Christian Bale come swooping. It just felt like it. It just felt like that would be something that could have happened in one of those movies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the dude knows how to cinematically build tension for his big events.
Yep.
And he does a real good job of ratcheting that up for the setups. So, even the immediate, I think the movie was good because he paid attention to a lot of technically reinforcing effects that I think every time I tried to pull apart what he was doing in a particular scene, it felt even more. Like, the in media res start here doesn't actually start with the media res. Like, it starts almost right before it, which is almost thematically the rest of the movie, because the climax of the action is never the climax of the action. It's always on some other end of the parabola where the action would crescendo. Yep. Right? And so, a lot of the pacing in the movie feels really bad. The dialogue scenes are almost jarringly painful to watch because everything feels so clipped, but I think it's intentional.
I
Oh
believe
yeah.
it is intentional also for the story that's being told
Yeah.
and how he's telling the story. Like it's incredibly deliberate.
Yeah, like the thing about it is this is why I didn't enjoy watching it, but like every movie that he's done, like, and I'll just restrict this to the succession of like Inception and then Interstellar and then this, like where he's made each of these increasingly complex movies, and now I think he's tipped past the point where it's like, okay, well, like technically, this is a very solid situation. Like you were talking earlier about how the logic you didn't want to think about it too much, but I actually do think the logic works.
I disagree. I
thought so too. I thought the
think it
logic
does
worked too.
I think it does on a surface level, but if you actually pull at it too much from like the actual quantum mechanical cause and effect in two opposite temporal directions, it falls apart.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, like the fire makes things cold. Yeah, I don't think that's how that works. That's not.
And just more broadly, the idea of you trying to and he shot it, I thought, as well as he probably could, but I feel like he took an interesting concept and then by trying to get too detailed with it, especially towards the end where there was so much running action with two groups going in the opposite directions, that their perspectives do not actually it just wouldn't work that way. The logic of it doesn't hold up if you stare at it too long. And that was my problem with the movie in the end. Was I think he in a way he bit off more I think than he could chew. That it's such a wild high concept that I'm not sure it's possible to do it accurately.
I think it probably is possible to do it. It's just that this movie was already 3 goddamn hours long,
right,
and you know there's a
and wanted to be a really intense spy thriller on top of it. I mean, entirely in a way, the time stuff was almost another layer on top of you've got a suicidal arms dealer with a troubled marriage who's an abuser who's trying to accomplish a world catastrophic event. You know, that's a movie in and of itself without any kind of time shenanigans on top of it.
But you know there's a 6-hour cut somewhere.
Sure.
You know there's a 6-hour cut somewhere.
Okay,
Nolan cut. Release the Nolan cut.
What?
I would watch it.
I would probably watch it too, because I want to see at least the other half of the conversations in all the dialogue scenes.
Well, and that's why you were saying, when you're saying the conversations being clipped is intentional, I mean, from almost the beginning, I was watching all of those conversations going, at least half of the people involved in this scene have knowledge that they are not saying because they experienced it in a different flow of time. And I just assumed that from the get-go.
Yeah.
I did not. And I'm going to go back and watch this movie again with full knowledge of
about 80 hours
of everything that happens. You know what? That I did not feel like this was an overly long movie. I didn't feel that way.
For a 2.5 hour movie, actually, it did not stretch. No, it felt pretty snappy. You know, it kept things moving.
I mean, there's a lot going on, and like you described, like Eric described, you know, you've got a spy thriller, the suicidal megalomaniac with a bad marriage. There's this emotional beat where protagonist, that's the name that he carries in the credits.
What he refers to himself as.
Yeah, I actually kind of thought that was pretty cool. Like that. There are other movies that don't have half as many things going on that fall apart so much quicker. Like there is a lot going on in this movie, but I didn't feel like any of those things were slighted. Like he could have just carved any one of those things out because it just wasn't doing enough of them. enough with either being a spy thriller or being this time heist thing. It just all felt like every point was given its measure, and I liked it. I just really liked it the whole way through. I heard some complaints, just vague complaints on the internet about how confusing it was. At no point did I feel confused. I had questions early on, but I felt like those questions, like they were appropriate for the point in the story I was, like where I had the questions, and I felt those questions were answered to the point that they were going to be answered.
So I mean, as I said on the chat, I did feel confused towards the back half of the movie, not in the sense that I was confused about the plot or anything like that. Like, I never felt like I didn't understand what was happening or why it was happening exactly. With the exception of I actually lost a little bit the thread on exactly what the plan was going in to try and stop the algorithm at the end, and why the timing on it mattered as much as it did. And that's where from about the halfway point I started occasionally getting into a little bit of trouble. Is I really did try to make everything line up and make sense completely from the both perspectives of the timelines going in opposite directions. And that's where I think if you think about that too hard, it doesn't quite make as much sense. But that's the thing, you don't necessarily need it to for the movie to work. If you're willing to just go, all right, I'm going to accept it as a high concept thing and not think about it too much, then it's okay. And the individual shots of it are really well done. Like when he first steps out, when the protagonist first steps out of the chamber for the first time and steps out into the open and sees things running backwards from his perspective at that point. Again, the cinematography was phenomenal. It gave you that visceral feeling of our perspective has moved into this alternative view, and it put you there really well, I thought.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the first fight scene that we see in the airport when we're first confronted with the masked person that he fights, at that point I knew something was weird. Like, there's a reason that mask is staying on, and it's one of these two guys.
Yeah.
Like I just kind of, I mean, we're dealing with wonky time. Okay. Like, that's going to be a conceit in this. We're going to run into another version of somebody at some point. And that it felt comfortably paid off later. Like, I didn't feel like, ooh, I got ya. It's like, no, I've seen movies like this before. You know, that's Chekhov's, time double.
Chekhov's time traveler. Yeah. I mean, I also saw it coming, but you're right. That was enough of a payoff the way they did it, the way they framed it, that kind of knowing ahead of time that was what was coming didn't ruin it, And,
No.
and if you haven't watched a lot of these types of stories before, it isn't necessarily like it was super telegraphed or obvious. It's more of one of those things of, well, yeah, this isn't my first time travel rodeo.
Right. Yeah, exactly. When they got to the point of doing it too, in the story, it's like, all right, well, these were the breadcrumbs that have been left for us all along. We're going to end up back there, especially when we get to the point. It's like, well, we need another. What are they? I can't remember what they call it. The device Yeah, we need another one. And it's like, well, we know where one's at. You know, I'm saying it along with the characters as they're saying it. It's like
We know where one's at, and we know that when there was a security breach in the past. So
yep, we know the time to do this. So let's go. Let's do it. And I mean, it's also why Robert Pattinson's character was like, all right, we're gonna make this happen, because he knows that it's already happened.
yeah, by the way, the casting on this I did think was phenomenal. Everybody knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson, as I don't even know if his character had a name or what either.
Neil.
Neil, that
I think
sounds
it was
right.
Neil.
That sounds right. He was great. He was phenomenal.
Yeah. After seeing this, I'm all the more looking forward to seeing the Batman.
The Batman.
Yeah, I've been kind of stoked to see it anyway. This just was another notch in that feather. Kind of like how when I saw it was just before Iron Man came out. Robert Downey Jr.'s already been cast, and I watched the movie Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And it was like, okay, all right, you've sold me.
Proof of concept on the actor.
Yeah, you've sold me. He's gonna be Tony Stark. He's gonna be Iron Man. Like that movie, it sold it for me before I even saw Iron Man. And yeah, sure enough, it was just slid right into that role. There was another moment I had just a couple of years ago. I watched all of Game of Thrones, and just kind of wondered, how does somebody like Peter Dinklage get in the role of Tyrion? I mean, it's not just they're not just going to cast him because of his size, which really was a boon that they found an actor that was that strong. There's a movie called Station Agent that we did for the podcast that we watched just a couple of years ago, and he's got a scene where he gets just blindly drunk and jumps up on a bar, and he's just railing on all these small town rubes who are just being assholes to him because he's I don't know what the appropriate term is, size challenged, height challenged. I don't know. A little person, is that appropriate? I don't know. Anyway, because of that, that's why they are making fun of him, and he's just drunk and railing on them. It was like, oh, that's Tyrion. Like, the way he played it was exactly the same way he played Tyrion Lannister. It was like, all right, I can see exactly like A to B. That's how that casting went.
That's the direct line.
Yep. Yeah. And I agree. The casting all around was really, really good. I even liked Michael Caine's little.
Yeah. I saw. Yeah, the Michael Caine. Oh, hey, it's a Christopher Nolan film. Got to find a cameo for Michael Caine.
Yeah, Mitch, like Will Smith, Independence Day was an audition for Men in Black. Yeah, absolutely. And what's weird is we just watched Men in Black just like a week and a half ago. There was a day the kids were off of school or something, and Holden just like grabbed the remote, was flipping channels, turned it on, and it was like the movie just started. Like the credits just started rolling, and he sat there and watched the whole thing, and it's the first time in a long time that I sat there and watched the whole movie. And like, I forgot how Will Smith he was in that, and just how goddamn great Tommy Lee Jones is in that movie. God, he's so good in that movie.
Yeah, their dynamic in that is fantastic. That's a classic.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Michael Caine. I love the back and forth between those two. That whole the British don't have a monopoly on snobbery.
But a controlling interest.
No, but a controlling interest. It's just such a good line.
Can you box that up for me? Certainly not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was that scene was like a number of scenes where I thought it was handled actually really well. Where this protagonist, would interact with some aspect of the normal intelligence world, right?
Mhm.
In spy fiction terminology, at least. And he would just go to people and know how to get access to people of all these different walks of life and know how to immediately adopt either a cover or his own persona to get access to them and speak with them and get what he needed with like zero explanation. There's no real background filling in on how he knows any of these people or anything. It's just, this is his job and he's been doing it a long time and he's good at what he does, so of course he knows how to do all of this. And I appreciate that. Like, let's assume he's a badass spy. He knows how to do all this stuff.
Yeah, and that he's a member of the intelligence community, so he has intelligence. Like, he's not only is he smart, but he has the information. When he goes to her, when they're going to meet, what the fuck's his name? I can't remember his name. The villain. When they're going to meet him, and she's like, "Hey, he's gonna know that you're not who you say you are." And he goes, "Oh, what?" And he just like starts giving her specifics about times that he was there, where that guy was, so he wouldn't have seen him. Like the level of detail that he just lays out right there is fantastic. And it's something that in a Bond movie, we would have seen Bond getting handed a dossier,
Yep.
and and then we would have then had to live through him explaining all that stuff later, where it's like, no, here's what I know, and I'm ready with this off the top of my head. I don't need any prompting. I just know this stuff. So can we just move on, because I got this covered. Like, wonderful. Like, I really appreciated that.
Honestly, it was my favorite parts of the movie. And for all that, I am a huge, obviously I'm a huge science fiction nerd, and I love myself a time travel story every day of the week. Even backwards. The bits of the movie I enjoyed the most were just the pure spy movie stuff. Because they were so well done. The reverse bungee jumping up onto the high rise.
That was really cool.
Was great. Oh my god. The reveal that the dude was just some dude living in a high rise and it was his wife that was the secret connection.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that character just stunk of Avasarala from
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was just like, oh man, this is Avasarala's great grandmother.
Mm-hmm. Then Nolan does the double heist.
Yeah.
Not only do you see the heist at the airport where they plan it out in meticulous detail, but then he goes back to it.
Yeah.
That was very well engineered.
Yeah, and we mentioned that, it was like, if you're not new, it was pretty obvious that the guy in the mask was one of the guys there in the first
I heard
place.
you, Eric.
Okay. I didn't know if you were.
You don't have to rehash bullshit. Yeah, so the clues were there. Like the reverse bullet early, I was like, okay, well, this is like clearly him. Like when Robert Pattinson pulls off the helmet, there's like that scene where he just looks at the guy and then just turns around and walks away.
Yep.
Like, was obviously gonna be the guy.
Yeah.
Right.
But the payoff made it worth it.
The payoff made it worth it. Yeah, it was not. It was subtle enough that it was good. that like if you were paying attention, like you knew it was coming, but like just like Tony tells me all of the time, just because you've seen the destination doesn't mean the steps to get there aren't satisfying or whatever fucking bullshit he's on. But but there was that whole section in there where they're like, don't come in contact with your past self, which is a rule they immediately break with no consequence. Because Robert Pattinson does it constantly. This dude does it constantly.
But a past self is not the same as, like, he never touched him.
I guess skin to skin is what matters.
Yeah, see, this is where for a long time.
This is where you start to get into the actual, science behind it makes no sense.
Well, I mean, if that was gonna if their grappling was gonna end all reality or whatever, then getting shot by a reverse bullet would too. Well, because it's just the reversal of time doesn't.
I don't think it was a physical thing. I think it was don't come in contact with yourself such that you'll modify the things you're about to do.
No, actually, they specifically called out that it would result in annihilation. It was a particle-antiparticle reaction. Yeah. So it literally was, don't allow the same atoms to come into contact at two different points in their own timeline, because and it's not even realistically, it's probably not even necessarily about time at that point. It's about the fact that once you're moving backwards, you're effectively an antiparticle version of yourself. So there's annihilation, and a person-sized antimatter annihilation would be a very large boom.
If we're going to split that hair, it's, two people, if I'm grappling with somebody, even if I'm like physically holding, hand to hand with them, my right hand's in their left hand, my left hand's in their right hand. It's not
right. I think the idea there is just, okay, the more,
let's not take a chance.
Yeah, the more you get all tied up with yourself, the more likely that the wrong atoms are gonna come into contact.
Yeah.
But they're wearing different clothes, and when he was originally when he came back, he was like head to toe in a different outfit. So I guess whatever, it's
sure.
Again, don't look at it too hard. Which was my issue, is that I kept trying to look at it too hard. But if you don't, it's fine, and it was done really well in that regard. Now, that was the interesting thing for me, is maybe the reason that my high level take was that I didn't think it was necessarily that good, even though I enjoyed it, was a reaction to the end, because I thought the big reveal at the end was predictable and boring as crap.
Yeah.
That the big reveal was, it was you running the show the whole time from later in your own timeline. I knew, it's the type of movie where there's something, a big twist at the end that's gonna get brought up.
Because it says directed by Christopher Nolan, written and directed by Christopher Nolan. It's the M. Night Shyamalan effect.
That wasn't so I didn't even think that was the reveal. I thought the reveal was Robert Pattinson saying, "Oh, yeah, you're about, I don't know, maybe halfway through this thing."
Well, because he's now got
This is the end of 3 hours.
Well, that's the 6 hours cut.
I actually did really enjoy that. Like that conversation. I grinned all the way through that conversation, but I was eating up the whole movie at that point. At that point, I was so deep into the ride that it was like, all right, but because we already know that he's dead.
Yeah.
Like we already know that this is the end of his story. And
does
he
too. Die there? Is that what happens?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's the body on the floor.
But the body gets up.
Well, in reverse time, because they were moving in opposite directions at that point.
Oh God, he does get up backwards.
Yeah. So he goes down, gets shot, dies, or is dying, and then boom, Although going backwards from that direction, he's not there for the boom, actually. Whatever. He's a body on the floor. It's possible he survives then, though. We don't actually know he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the assumption you're supposed to make is that, Pattinson's on his way to go die in the events we just saw to allow the success of the mission to happen. And you're right. The conversation was great, actually. Again, all the people playing these roles knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I really like the whole Silence in the Library Doctor Who situation, which is basically what this is, and I am all about it. I'm 100% on board.
So
for
the
that
question
shit.
I had and I didn't do any digging to see if this is like some internet theory or anything, but is Robert Pattinson her son?
Who? Oh, the
Indian chick?
wife.
The wife. I don't know. I
Wait,
mean, he
hold on.
seems to come from the future.
You mean the Indian chick, or do you mean
No.
the blonde chick?
The blonde chick. The blonde.
Oh.
Because we see her son.
That's it's an interesting theory.
I don't know. It's just an idea. Just a thought I had.
You're a bad thought.
Yeah, probably.
The scene was good. I just, in the end, the big twist to me felt a little flat in kind of maybe an M. Night Shyamalan type of thing, like you said. Like he got to the point where he was trying to do that in every movie, and they kept getting stupider and stupider. The reveals, and I'm not saying that this was a bad, this is hardly, The Village or anything, but
no, not close.
or The Happening.
I mean, there was a lot of little twisty reveals within the last 10 minutes of the movie. I mean,
yeah,
like
I don't know.
The one that I actually really liked and honestly, I did not see coming was when she saw herself jump off the boat. And that's the woman early on. Like when she jumped off the boat and then you see her old self look up, and it was like, holy shit. Like, I literally was like,
the woman that she envies for her freedom. Yep.
Yeah, it's her. And it was like, oh my God, that's such a, like,
that was very good.
That was so good. And I even, like, I was watching the movie and just said, holy shit. And Julie turned around and said, what? And I was like, I can't explain it. Like, I'm 2 hours and 15 minutes into this movie, and one thing happened that called back to something that happened like an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest holy shit moment of the movie too, because that one was phenomenal.
And it was it was in a place that I never expected it to be. Like, like that was really, really well done.
You know who was in this movie? Wes Chatham. The dude who plays Amos on The Expanse.
Oh,
he was
really?
He was one of the SWAT team people in the beginning.
Huh. I didn't even realize.
Me neither. I like that guy. That guy's a really good Amos.
I do too.
Yeah, he took a little bit to grow on me. I didn't see it. I didn't see Amos in him at first, but he gets into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's partially because based on the novel, I expected a large black man and not a large white man. Honestly, the audiobook, the voice I associated with Amos is a large black man, not a moderately sized white man. Because Amos in the TV show is not as big, like physically imposing as I expected Amos to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was my problem. One of my problems with him early was he didn't have overall the presence that I was kind of expecting.
But goddamn, does he pull it like?
He grows into that role.
He grows into it real good.
Mm-hmm. He does, and not to spin off on The Expanse too much, but
have you been on this podcast before?
There some of the, like you said, the movie was full of reveals all over the place, and like they were mostly fantastic. They knocked them out of the park. The one where she dove off the boat was the biggest holy shit moment. That
was the biggest holy shit moment for me. The biggest holy shit moment for me was reading the trivia. So that opening sequence at the Opera House, where they're taken hostage, they pump the gas in, and then people start shooting. That is based on a real event that happened.
Wow.
In Oslo?
I don't think it was in Oslo. I'm looking at the trivia to figure out where it was, but this is a real thing that happened, and a lot of people died, as you might expect.
And
But
people
not
shooting
from
up an opera
bullets.
house
Oh, not from bullets.
from the
It's
gas.
because from the gas.
Yeah.
Oops. Oops.
Yeah, weirdly enough, it's actually really hard to carefully anesthetize an entire room full of
Yeah.
people.
As one
Anesthetize? Whatever.
anesthetize, as one might expect. What were you saying? I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. One of the, it wasn't as much of a reveal exactly, but it was one of those, again, setup moments. When he got Avasarala, whatever her name was in the movie, to promise him that
Priya.
she'd let the wife. What's that?
Priya.
When he got Priya to promise him that she'd let the wife and kid walk away at the end. And I mean, she's telling him the whole time, I can do that. It doesn't mean anything, and you know that. And then he makes her, and she does it. And then we get to the end, and she's there. All right, time to tie up loose ends. And then they cut to her having called him like 5 minutes ago or whatever, so that he could be there. And it was like, you could almost see he was playing that. He knew from the start. All right, she and her kid are in mortal danger from this whole situation, even if we get through this in one piece. Mm-hmm. So I've got to put the idea in her head that she's got to specifically betray me to clean up the loose end, so that there's a timetable that I can stay on her with. Like, he was on top of it the whole time, and that was great. Again, his just casual competence at his job was spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Her name was Kat.
Kat, yeah. So I just Googled Kat Tenet son, and apparently I am not alone in this
in this theory.
In this theory, that Neil is Max.
Does that theory describe? Does it include any speculation on the fact that she is 6'3"?
What?
She is 6'3".
I could tell she was tall as hell.
Yeah,
she was
a tall individual. That is a Sam-sized lady.
That is yeah, I mean, it's not quite sexy vampire from Resident Evil tall, but she is tall.
Not quite that internet sensation.
No. Yeah. I mean, she's pretty. Robert Pattinson's pretty. I can see it.
This is a George Lucas romance.
My pet theory that I was carrying, the thing that I was kind of expecting to be the big twist at the end, unfortunately did not. I suppose fortunately did not pan out. I had in the back of my head the whole time the idea that it would turn out that he was working for the side actually trying to reverse the flow of time in the world, and it was the people he was up against who were actually trying to preserve the standard flow of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that might have been a possible. There was a point when I thought that might have been possible. What I found interesting only after the movie was over was the fact that at almost every point, it feels like there is an antagonist to protagonist in his actions going forward. And most of about a third to half of the time, he is the antagonist that is against himself. The fight in the airport, the car chase with the car going in reverse, like that was him fighting against himself, when in both cases he is the protagonist, just depending on which view of the story you're watching, which I found, like, after the fact, I find that just a really cool, clever meta commentary about you are the protagonist of your own story.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole idea. And that, like, I really dug that.
or that who the protagonist is entirely dependent on perspective,
Right.
Because he's in the airport fight scene, he's the protagonist going forward, and then he's the protagonist going backward, and it's entirely depending on which perspective you're in.
Yep.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. All right, I guess I liked it. I guess it was a pretty good movie. You sold me.
Yeah, the problem, I didn't enjoy watching the movie because after the first maybe 15 minutes of the movie, I was like, fuck, this is a Christopher Nolan movie. I gotta pay attention to every fucking thing going on the screen. Like, I have to watch this in my living room, not at my computer, so I can, like, wholly dedicate my focus to just this thing. Otherwise, I'm gonna miss something and feel like an idiot later. And I do not enjoy watching movies that way.
You must give 100% of your attention. That is the tenet of this movie.
That is not necessarily. I don't have a problem giving 100% of my attention. I have a problem being mandated that I give the attention. Like a movie, like what the hell did we watch? Was it Trial of Chicago 7?
Mhm.
Like that movie drew me in a way that I devoted all my attention to it because I wanted to, not because I knew I was gonna like miss something and feel dumb later. I spent a lot of time trying not to feel dumb. It's not working out well for me.
So I'm looking at one of the the Reddit posts about the theory that Max and Neil are the same person, and somebody says that, and I don't know where they get this information because I don't think we ever see the kid's name on screen. That Maximilian is spelled in a weird way, and that the last four letters are Lien, which would be when you reverse the name, those first four letters then are Neil.
God damn.
Yeah.
Fucking, this is why Reddit is a goddamn disease.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goddamn disease.
Yeah, I would say there's a certain amount of overthinking there, but I do think that I think Nolan makes his movies to be analyzed in that way. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think that's part of the fun of it. Of let's see what kind of threads people will start pulling on.
So he makes
another part in that same thread also said that Neil, Max, and Sater are all the same person,
and Sater.
which would be really weird because isn't Sater his dad?
That's his dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently biological dad from some of the dialogue later in the movie.
Yep.
I'm not sure I buy that one.
Yeah.
I mean, he clearly was like he grew up in Russia in the Soviet Union. I
it just doesn't track because he would have known everything. Like it just doesn't.
I can see Neil and Max. I can't see also Sater.
Right.
If nothing else, I think that kind of breaks some of the point of that character. Like this was a character whose entire history gave him a worldview that if I have to die, I'm taking the entire world with me. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, I do remember thinking to myself when they found the first piece of the algorithm, and it was a metal box, a weird metal box. I remember thinking to myself, "Hey, it's a mystery box," and then I was like, "Yeah, but J.J. Abrams makes mystery box movies that are terrible because there's no answer to the mystery, whereas Christopher Nolan has a tendency to actually provide some interesting thoughts about, if not outright answers to his mystery boxes. So I'll go with it, and it worked out."
The problem is that there's the plot holes section in IMDb is quite large.
Hmm.
The radio waves from the transponder would be moving backwards.
Ooh.
I mean, again, yes. If you pull apart the backwards time thing, it doesn't. So here's the problem. It's not that space-time having time move in the opposite direction that we perceive it in isn't a thing that you can do. It absolutely is. It's math in physics, right? The problem is, and this is really the case, having studied some of this stuff with a degree and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Quantum physics and the stuff that spirals out from it is not intuitive. It is anti-intuitive, in fact, in many, many ways. That it works in a way that does not translate to any real experience that human beings have. So you can fuzz over it a bit to make, cat in a box, he's dead and alive at the same time. That's not actually how it works. How it works is it can't be explained. You just have to do the math because the math is how it works. And without that,
it's like hearing stop backwards. Like if you reverse the audio file, it doesn't say pots. That's
right.
That's not what it sounds like. It sounds like something else.
Right.
Because that's not how it works.
And
Right.
and so what I'm getting at is, yes, backwards time is a theoretical thing, but we do not have a frame of understanding to imagine what it would actually be like.
I mean, it's probably an actual thing too.
Well,
we'll just never experience it.
From our perspective, exactly. It's like a particle physics type of thing.
We poorly experience the fourth dimension as it is now.
So yeah, the plot holes are going to be crazy because you don't think about it too hard. But whatever.
Yeah, this is like not thinking about any science too hard. Any science fiction movie too hard. Most of them break down at some point.
Not the good ones, Tony.
The good ones still make you make assumptions about science that aren't always true.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
aren't ever true.
Any science fiction that posits faster than light is already making an assumption of something that at the moment we believe to be completely impossible.
Yeah, especially when you're also shooting lasers when you're supposedly going faster than light. I'm looking at you, Star Trek.
Yeah, well, Star Trek and Star Wars, neither of them really qualify as hard fiction, hard science fiction.
No, they don't. But there are some nerds that really like to lean more into Trek being more fact,
more technologically feasible.
I mean, sure.
I guess yes. Than Star Wars, than World War II in space, sure, but you still have. Inertial dampeners and
Star Trek has Q. It's tough to really get on that high horse about space wizards when Q's just rolling around.
Yep.
And we accept it because Q's great.
Yeah.
Well, if you get a good actor behind it or a clever narrative story to tell around it, you start forgiving things. And for me, that's what Tenet did.
It was a good enough story that you don't look too hard at the backwards time stuff.
Yeah, like if you're not telling me a compelling enough story to stay in the story, I'm going to start drifting and pulling at threads. There was enough going on. This movie is dense enough that in the moment,
this movie's very dense.
I did not feel like I needed to, mentally check out and pull on threads. That's a problem that I had with the what the fuck are they called? The Hunger Games movies. they make the mistake of trying to explain too much of the society, where then they start doing things where Katniss just stares at a wall with a blank expression on her face. So then I do the same thing and start thinking about the things you've just explained to me, that this doesn't make any sense. Like, your math just doesn't work. Like, there's no guarantee that when you get to the third quarter quell that you're going to have 2 living winners from, like, you may not even have 2 winners from every, like, that's just, I mean, you've only done this 74 times. You're saying you have 1 male and 1 female winner from each of these regions? That's, man, that
Improbable.
math is really, really a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you got to figure that there have been some Hunger Games where no one got out alive.
Well, plus, I mean, these are...
Well, people die.
There's people that just get old. I mean, you've been doing this for 74 years. You know, your first competitors, I mean, you may have 1 or 2 in the first 10 still around, but I would bet there's not many of them left. Yeah, like, it just became really easy to pull apart that story. Like, in the whole economics of society just doesn't work. But I had to, it gave me time to think about it. It didn't give me other, better, more interesting things to think about.
You know, Tony, I'm pretty sure West Chatham was in that too.
He might have been. Like,
you are dialed into West Chatham.
He's to be searching for West Chatham porn later.
I'm like, God, he was.
Was he?
Yeah, he's one of the 2 like camera crew people that roll around with her. He's like one of the 2.
That makes sense. That 100% makes sense.
Yeah. But maybe it's not me with the West Chatham situation. Maybe it's you, Tony.
Maybe it is. Maybe this is just my West Chatham inception of you.
Jesus Christ. That's all I fucking need in my life. To be incepted with West Chatham. Christ.
Have you heard about the TV show The Unit?
I don't want to know anything about it.
I don't know anything about it. I just was scrolling through his IMDb page and saw that he was in that.
I just got some exciting news. This is hot off the press. I just finished my virtual tour of France or Italy. I did a virtual marathon, like exercise stuff.
Cool.
Through France or Italy, and I can't remember which one it is. Italy. I just finished 312 miles.
Congratulations.
It's very exciting. They're going to send me a medal.
Are they really?
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah. Put it next to my heroism award. The whole situation.
I have started listening to the Hail Mary Project.
Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary, is that?
It is very good. How far in are you?
A couple hours.
Well, I think it's only like a 10-hour book.
No, it's like 17-hour book. 16, 17 hours.
What?
High level, what's it about? I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
Well, it's Andy Weir.
Right, the Martian guy.
Yep.
It is 17 hours. Holy shit. So it's difficult to tell you what it's about. Dude wakes up on a spaceship. He has amnesia, doesn't remember how he got there. And so the book is him discovering why he's there through
and everything from that. Okay,
Yeah.
I love that kind of like I've read stories like that, and that's good stuff. So
And it is
Yeah.
it's very well done.
It
I
is. There's some interesting character quirks that he realizes about himself that you only realize later. Like things about the way he uses dialogue. And you only learn later why he does that. It's really well done. I'm
there's
really
one
enjoying it.
there's one really good twist towards the end that is just chef's kiss. It's really good, and I did not see it coming at all.
So I am 3 hours and 24 minutes in. That's where I'm at.
I'll have to look at picking up a
You
copy.
should read it. It is very good. There's some really intense stuff going on there.
I from the sound of it, it sounds like it's written to take place further in the future of a science fiction setting than The Martian was, which was kind of like near Earth future.
Ish. It's pretty near Earth future.
It is.
Okay.
There is a conceit that they learn about, like to the point where I'm at in the story. They've learned something that advances certain pieces of science and technology far beyond where we're at, just because of the necessity of it and because of what they find. Like there's a finding that's like
there's an accelerated
the MacGuffin is a MacGuffin,
right?
And it is a thing that happens. Yeah. Oh, I see.
Fitting.
You,
it would be like, imagine in 1920, somebody finds a working laser that is 100 years beyond where we have them now. And they just find it, and somebody's using it for dastardly deeds, and oh shit, we need to do something about that. But we also now have knowledge that this thing exists, so we can work towards that thing that much quicker because we know that it's not only is it a theoretical thing, but it's an actual thing.
Yeah.
And I'm being vague on purpose.
Sure. Not trying to spoil it.
It's like you don't want to look too deep into this. I bought this because Andy Weir wrote it. Like, I looked up nothing beyond that. Like, as I'm purchasing, it's like, oh, also Ray Porter read it. I like that the way he reads books, so that's just a bonus. Thank God it's not Will Wheaton. was more my moment, because like, I really like John Scalzi's books, but man, I cannot with Will Wheaton.
He sucks
cannot
so much.
that bad a reader, huh?
He reads in a way that I can see his face, and I want to punch his face.
I want to punch his voice.
I want to punch his face, and if I can't see him, that's usually fine. But the way he reads makes me see his face, and then I want to punch it. It hurts.
Yeah, like, he has this arrogant, smarmy air about him, and his voice acting just doesn't. It's not acting. It's just him reading a book in smarm voice, and it's just offensive. And it doesn't help if the book's not great. Like Ready Player One was fine, but I listened to Armada with that fucking dude reading it, and like, I just wanted to rip the bits out of my phone and throw them across the room, just because, god damn, like the story's not that great to begin with.
The comparison I saw that I think is extremely
The Last Starfighter.
No, I love The Last Starfighter.
I did too, but this movie was 100% trying, or that book was 100% trying to be The Last Starfighter.
Sure. No, the comparison I saw, and that I 100% agree with, is that the Ready Player books are Twilight for old white nerds.
I haven't bothered with the second one. I won't. I have no interest in the
I
second
have
one.
no interest in the first one because fuck, nerds are the goddamn worst, man. You ever seen nerds? They're just the worst.
I like the first one
The
because it was
fucking worst.
nostalgia. Like it spoke to my nostalgia, but like then you actually look at the story and the writing and it just doesn't work.
See, that's the thing, is that like weaponized nostalgia has become such a thing for nerds that and I mean, I come from that era too. I love Ghostbusters. I love The Last Starfighter. I love Iron Giant. But you get to a point where it's like, wait a minute, there isn't actually a plot to just regurgitating memes from 80s and 90s science fiction movies.
It's I mean, the only thing that I can say is that this is uh a precursor. Like this movie predicted old white guys on TikTok, because like it's just this stream of rapid fire memes that I guess you could call it a story, but it's just not good.
And then apparently read by Will Wheaton. I did not know that.
Yeah, read by Will Wheaton it's a hard pass for me. Fortunately, there was one book that I have in my library. I just haven't gotten to it yet. By John Scalzi, called Lock In, and I guess there's something clever about the story which I haven't read yet, so I don't know what it involves. But it's a 2-part story, and part one, he has 2 different narrators. Like they're 2 fully different books with 2 fully different like the same book with 2 fully different narrators. One of them's Will Wheaton. That's not the version I bought. I bought the other version. Like I wasn't like there are a bunch of his books that I just haven't picked up because
I need to. I honestly have not read more than 1 or 2 of Scalzi's books, and like one of them was Red Shirts.
Red Shirts
but
wasn't bad.
I really want to pick up his Old Man War series. I've read enough about it to know that would be right up my alley.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I would think
3 of those.
Yeah, I think the first 3 are all you want to get to. Like I got a little past that. It was like, ooh, we're just milking this out. Like this is your big franchise that you're just, we're just gonna keep telling. Like when I really tapped out, it's like we're gonna completely retell one of these stories from another character's point of view, and it's like, oh Jesus, really?
So speaking of the Scalzi-esque like group of authors on Twitter and such, I don't know if you guys have read any of Chuck Wendig's books, but he published one a couple of years ago called Wanderers, which it basically is about an epidemic, really, is what it boils down to. And here's the thing: I got about 2/3 of the way through the book, and then I stopped, and I haven't finished it because I was right about there when all this shit started going down. And so it's about 2 things. It's about an epidemic, in this case, a really weird one, of people become like zombie sleepwalkers who just all start in a flock, get more and more of them gathering in a single group, heading in a direction, and no one knows why. No one can wake them up. There's other complications about them. Sure. And no one knows what's causing it, and it's really fucking it's freaking the world out, right? And then there's the side plot to it is the collapse of American society, as highlighted and mainly led by hyper conservative talk show culture and a super hyper conservative senator who takes advantage of the fear caused by the pandemic to wrest control of the government. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't read this. It's this is too close.
I don't want to know how this ends.
This
I'm
is
gonna.
not the escape I want.
I don't want the spoilers for the end of this fucking story.
Right, exactly. But that said, it's intensely well written. For me, this is high praise. It gave me the vibe of an old school Stephen King novel. And so if you get in the headspace where that kind of a book won't immediately make you start to recoil, I would recommend it. I don't know who did it. I assume it's got an audiobook. I don't know who did it.
Yeah, I am aware of Chuck Wendig through the podcast.
The magic of the internet.
Yeah, like
I am aware of Wendig.
A few of the podcast people that I follow, like, know him. I think, like, personally know him. So they're, when he has new stuff coming out, they boost that particular signal. But I've not read any of his stuff yet.
He's got a style that's a little hard to get into. He really likes at times writing in first person, which I sometimes find difficult to read. And he can occasionally get a little in his style can take some getting used to. But honestly, Wanderers, I didn't have any problems at all. It like I said, it read very easily for me. I didn't stop it because I wasn't enjoying the book. I stopped it because it was too close.
Too much.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm downloading it right now, Eric.
I enjoy first person in short stories just because I don't find the stretch that hard to get into the headspace of it. Like, as the reader, it's supposed to be you. It's supposed to be me. I am doing this. If I can't relate to that character, if I can't put myself in the space of understanding why it needs to be told this way, it's a hard sell for me. First person is.
Go that
N.K.
Jemisin route and go second person.
That's what? That's a bold move, and I actually do enjoy it.
I respect the effort.
I've written in second person, and it's a fun challenge because you really are, like, there's no two ways about it. You are putting that burden on the reader. Mm-hmm. Like, you can, like, as a reader, you can read the words, I am doing this, I am doing that, and you're like, okay, this person is telling me a story about themselves. When they're saying you are doing this, you are doing that, it's like, oh man, you're laying a heavy burden on me here with this story. And, like, it's a bold move that N.K. Jemisin really does well.
Yeah, no, she crushed that.
Yeah.
I honestly couldn't. I didn't. I'm not going to probably read the third book in that series.
Really?
Yeah, I really like the first one. No, not really. The first book I really enjoyed it, but about a third of the way into the second book, I just started feeling this fatigue. I don't know what it was. Just there was a fatigue to that story that I just couldn't get past. And I finished the book, but it's just like, I felt tired with the story, and I can't explain it.
I know where you're coming from. Sometimes a book just is exhausting, and not bad. You can like the book, but it is a chore.
Yeah, like, the book is extremely well written. There's a lot of interesting concepts there, but it just wasn't speaking to me.
Yeah.
Well, so since we're on the subject of book and book recommendations, I will also pitch out there a high recommendation for the best book I have read in years, which was Middle Game by Shannon McGuire.
Middle Game.
That's
not End Game or.
Nope, it's the Middle Game.
Start Game.
Middle Game by Shannon McGuire. It's effectively a modern fantasy. The storyline centers around modern day alchemists and their creations, and there's a lot going on there. It's a very complex story. There's time travel involved in it.
Oh, it's narrated by Amber Benson.
Is that a good thing?
Amber Benson played she played Willow's girlfriend on Buffy.
Tara. Okay. Cool. That
She's
book,
also an accomplished writer herself.
Middle Game blew me away. I read that during the pandemic. I don't know, about a little less than a year ago now. It's
Okay.
like 530 pages, and I blew through it in like 3 days. And that's not like I read Fastplex. This was one of those books that for the first time in years, I just wouldn't put it down at the end of the day type of books.
The sequel comes out next year.
Yes, and
Seasonal Fears.
It actually, and okay, so without getting too deep into the story, because it is definitely one of those with spoilers. The sequel is going to be a second story told in the same world, but not necessarily about the same story. So it's not so much a sequel as another story in that setting, from what I've read.
So
The second, in addition to a sequel, there has been a spin-off book, and there's going to be a sequel to the spin-off book, which are in Middle Game, there is a fictional series of fictional books, the quotes of which are used at each chapter heading. And then Shannon McGuire wrote the book that's the fake book in the book, which is like a Wizard of Oz style children's book.
Let me ask this question, this serious question. Is this as bad as, oh Christ, I forgot the guy's name?
I haven't heard of that one.
Fuck me. He's the fantasy guy. I hate him because he doesn't finish his goddamn books. Joe Abercrombie.
Oh, okay.
Joe Abercrombie. This dude wrote 3 books, okay? So we're maybe 50, 75 pages from the end of the 3rd book in this trilogy. And I'm like, how is this guy going to wrap this book up? Spoiler, he just doesn't.
At least
and then he's done.
At least in this case, Middle Game itself tells a complete story. Like, if you don't want to get into any of the other stuff, you can read Middle Game, and it is a fantastic book, and you can be done with that world, and you're fine.
That's good.
All the other stuff is just she wanted to keep playing in that sandbox, and her publisher was willing to keep paying her.
Sure.
There was some fantasy novels that I read in the late 80s, early 90s by Dennis McKiernan. And he did this clever thing where, like, he did a trilogy, and then, like, at some point in the trilogy, characters are talking, and they talk about some hero from the past or some fable that happened previously, like that is meaningful to their journey. Then the next duology or trilogy or single novel is that story.
Yeah, like, I love metafiction.
It's just a throwaway. It's just a throwaway line that, oh, do you remember? You remember the tales of these grand heroes and this thing they did, and then like the next series of books are those grand heroes and the thing they did, and it is not at all what these people like. It is not at all the story. Like, it's not right. Or the people weren't heroes, or their motivation was really shitty. Whatever it was, it's like, it's just not what history, like, it's this fanciful version of history that you get to read through, and then some other story is mentioned, and then it goes back into, like, it's a backward series of stories, which I just found really interesting. Like, it was because they weren't prequels, because they weren't talking about anything of, like, they were not connected other than somebody mentioned that guy, which I just really liked. And quite often what they mentioned is not right. Like, it's just not the way things happened.
the real
I read a
hardcore
lot of
is the-
Pierce Anthony in the late 80s for my fantasy,
I
and
did
that guy
too.
turned out to be a sex criminal, and it was kind of actually a little obvious once you go back and look at the stuff in his books. So
He did? I didn't realize he did.
Pierce Anthony, ooh,
Yeah.
he's not a good guy.
Mm.
At least that's what I've
Cool.
heard.
What, at the meetings you go to?
Listen, we have to keep tabs on each other.
All right, what else we got in this movie? Because I'm really tired.
Well, you guys convinced me it's a good movie, so I think it's a job done.
Won't be the first time, won't be the last.
I think the first of the first dozen movies we watched, there was 5 or 6 of them that we started the recording with David saying he did not like the movie and ended with, "All right, I liked it."
It's happened before.
It has. It hasn't happened in a while, but that used to be a theme in the early.
Well,
the early
maybe
shows we
I'm
did together.
I think it's more that you ran into the Netflix stream of movies, and
Well,
I think as I've gotten older, my opinions are a lot less flexible. I think I've gotten better at consuming media.
there is
are you
also
losing brain elasticity?
No, I'm just, you're more experienced at it, right? So, like, I don't have to work out complicated feelings on a lot of media I see because
You can trust
done
you can trust your initial take on it a little bit more.
well, I mean, like, working out the feelings is a combination of a couple different things, right? A big component of that is why do I feel the way I do about this thing, right?
Sure.
And having the experience of judging and, like, ingesting larger quantities of media, it's just easier to shortcut through a lot of that deconstruction of why I feel the way I do, right? Because, like, now that I've done it a bunch, odds are I've felt this way about other things before, or at least similar ways, right? So I don't like when they kill the dog. It bothers me. I didn't bring it up in Nomadland, but I really disliked the character when she left the dog. That was a large hill. That was a large hole she had to dig herself out of with me.
Yeah.
She did it by shitting in a bucket.
That did happen.
Eric, did you watch Nomadland?
No, I did not.
Okay. So, a scene in there, Frances McDormand shits into a bucket.
I'm not feeling an urge to watch this movie at this
Okay.
point.
So, reading the trivia, that's Frances McDormand actually shitting in a bucket. It's like one of the first scenes they shot for the movie.
Is my memory not correct, though, that you have actual experience with watching someone shitting in a bucket?
Oh, no, they weren't shitting into the bucket.
Oh, okay.
It was the reverse of that.
I was wrong.
It's the reverse of that. It's consuming shit from the bucket.
Oh, no. Oh, no. The only story I'm aware of in this regard is Paul's AT&T repairman story.
That guy U-versing his
The U-versing.
Fuck, why do we have so many shit stories?
It's the human condition.
Everybody poops. I think another thing is that I wonder if your expectations haven't been adjusted before watching some movies, because after talking about movies for ever, yeah, we're past 15 years now in the podcast. One thing that often holds true is that the way I feel about movies and the way a lot of people feel about movies is based on the expectation they have about the movie going in,
Mhm.
and what you bring to it often informs your expectation. Your
Mhm.
expectation informs your enjoyment. And I think that held very true of Mortal Kombat. Like
Mhm.
we had expectations for what that movie was going to give us,
Yep.
and I know I, for one, those expectations were met fully, and I enjoyed myself. That movie was not good,
Oh no,
but
it was a
I
bad
had
movie.
fun. But I had a great time watching it because that's it. It gave me exactly what I expected in that regard.
This is why I try and break my high-level review into two parts now, Tony. It's how I felt when I watched the movie and whether or not I thought the movie was good. I enjoyed watching Mortal Kombat because it was a fucking ridiculous movie.
Yep.
But it was not a good movie.
No, it was not.
But sometimes, I mean, you go into that movie looking to be entertained, and that's all. Like you're not sitting down in front of Mortal Kombat expecting to learn something new about the world.
No, and in a way, I mean, Mortal Kombat was a good movie because
it met its own expectations.
It succeeded in
its intent.
Its intent. It did it. It pulled it off.
I don't know if you're gonna. I don't know that you can just boil the entirety of. I hate to fucking say it, like objective art criticism down to it fulfilled its intent. Right?
No, you're right. You're right. That doesn't make it high art. But in what they were trying to accomplish, they succeeded.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You put it in air quotes because objective art criticism is ridiculous in the first place.
It is ridiculous. Yeah.
And that's because there are so many different ways you can frame that critique, right? You can absolutely critique a movie purely based on its technical merits or based on its narrative merits, in which case Mortal Kombat would be atrociously bad.
The acting, the cinematography, the special effects, the dialogue.
Or just
I mean,
you can entertain. Yeah,
right.
I mean, so.
I mean, that's the one thing that my mom has said she doesn't like having conversations with me about movies because I'm like I dissect them. I've done this for a while. That's one of the things I like about him though is the dissection, is the picking it apart. You can like a movie.
That is
fine.
Bad. You can like a movie that is bad. That's fine.
I mean, I think a lot of people, they go to a movie theater to turn off some of their critical thinking and just experience the movie.
All right. Well, I hate them when they do that. That's no good. I don't like that.
But that's not a way I feel like I can go into a movie like Tenet.
Well,
it's an expectation because I've seen a Christopher Nolan movie before ever in my life.
Well, and that's the thing. I think if you asked the people, if you got them to talk honestly about it, the people who made Mortal Kombat would tell you, "Yeah, please, we want you to turn your brain off because we're giving you somebody being sliced in half by a saw hat."
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
And I was fine with that.
No, that was a great fatality.
That really was.
And task.
Whereas I think Christopher Nolan makes a movie because he wants people to pick it apart.
Sure. And in the same way, it succeeded.
Yeah. But I don't think it's fair to say that if I set the bar so low that it's an objective success if I jump the hurdle. I don't feel like that's a fair. If anything, this would be a third category of did the movie accomplish what the movie set out to be? That's neither an objective criticism nor a subjective criticism. That's just did this accomplish the task?
the presumed task.
With
Because
Mortal Kombat, I feel like I know what the task was.
no,
With Tenet, I feel like I know what the task was.
Sure, there are other movies though that you got to kind of wonder. Like there are some movies that
Were
really,
they trying for more than this?
right?
Yeah.
Bad Education does make me wonder what the task was.
So another thing that I'm really wondering, like it's causing me to second guess myself in this whole 15-year podcast run, is the fact that I keep reading articles about how Nomadland was one of the most beloved Oscar winners in recent history. Like that, I think that's the exact quote from an article I read. Um, and how Nomadland was just so beloved and how deserving it was over the other movies. And
that sounds like a very industry insider type of quote.
Yeah, like I read these things and I'm like, did my brain just break? Like, did I forget how to movie? Like I don't like, because I didn't see any of those things in that. Like
The movie was good, but I don't know. Like, this is what I mean by people. Like, this feels like a projection. Like, somebody has put this thing they wanted into this movie where it did not exist, right? And this is
well, and the whole most beloved
bad.
thing. I mean, like, I didn't see the movie, but it wasn't like I don't remember seeing like some groundswell of opinion that Nomadland, well, of course it's the greatest thing we've had all year.
Yeah.
One, I don't think it was. And
I don't
two,
think so either.
I haven't seen that either. Literally, no one I know, with the exception of Lena, has even seen the movie. Has even seen the movie, let alone like in a dark alley. Is like, you gotta watch Nomadland.
Right.
Like sneaking into my bedroom at night, whispering, trying to incept me to see Nomadland.
Yeah, I just didn't get that. I just didn't get it.
And I realize that like my connection to pop culture has been somewhat, shaky this last year. Not going anywhere, doing anything, but also I had never even heard of the movie until the Oscar nominations came out.
Same.
So like, I don't know.
But I also feel like I'm not as connected as I was. People are telling me about trailers like, "Oh, have you seen the trailer?" Like Luke mentioned the other day, Fatherhood. Have you seen the trailer to Fatherhood? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Like, I'd seen it because Megan McCain retweeted it.
Oh, okay.
That's the experience I had with it, which is
then I
instantly put me in the mood of I'm not gonna like this.
I was gonna like that's where you get your pop media references from.
I don't know why I follow her on Twitter, but fuck, I hate everything she says. So that gives me fire to keep me going for the days.
Yeah, I watched the trailer and I was like, man, this plot looks I'm like, this looks a lot like Jersey Girl. And then it was flashed up on the screen, inspired by a true story, and I'm like, what? What, the true story of someone who watched the movie Jersey Girl?
The movie is emotional terrorism 101.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Now, the only way they can jam pack more emotional terrorism in there is if a dog dies about halfway through.
Yeah.
Shit's too much.
Didn't a dog die in the Double All the Time movie too?
Many.
Yeah. Yep.
Been a rough year for dogs in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad sacrifices the dog.
Those like that whole genre of movies that started with Old Yeller and is followed through with like A Dog's Purpose and all these movies that are coming out.
No,
like,
A Dog's Purpose is a fucking nightmare.
I refuse to watch it.
Yeah, me too.
I 100% refuse to watch it.
One, they tortured dogs during the production. That's not okay. Like, they had a whole drowning thing. Like, the dog was obviously in distress, but they need to get the shot, and so it's like panicking in this pool. That's a fucking jail sentence as far as I'm concerned. We don't do that to animals. Two, the movie is just deep emotional terrorism. I am not here for.
Yeah. There's certain things I just don't feel like subjecting myself to.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And it's the
like
same reason.
why, right?
Yeah. Well, it's the same reason, like, we're talking about going to AC this summer and then spending some time in New York City. So Julie's like, oh, we can see the 9/11 museum. Not this guy. I am
Yeah.
not going. Oh, but no buts. I am not going. I have no interest in
to see what?
I have no interest in fetishizing that.
Yeah.
I just don't. And
Yeah.
I
Can
understand
we please forget?
I understand that some people feel the need to, and if that's, if you need to connect with it in that way, that's on you. It is not for me. Nope.
Yeah. Like I
I mean,
understand that it was a major emotional thing that happened in this country. And I understand that people do need closure about that kind of stuff emotionally.
Yeah,
However,
but there's so much, especially now. There is so much baggage tied up in it, and it is such meant to evoke a response. Like, no, is anyone going and doing a pilgrimage to the site of the Oklahoma City bombing? I don't know. No, they're not.
no. No, it was just it was co-opted to usher in this incredible erosion of civil liberties under the guise of this nationalistic like cult that I just didn't have a connection with then, have less of a connection with now that I even understand the full ramifications of what it was going to do to this country for 20 years. So like I don't pass.
David, you'll get more conservative when you get older, though.
I have no idea where that even comes from because I'm becoming more and more radical as I age. We don't need police. Like it's just
I
increasingly unhinged in my radical leftist policies.
the funny thing is I am going exactly opposite of that trajectory also. Like
Me too.
I voted Republican for a long time, and
When yeah,
it was just it seemed like the right thing to do.
when I
Not
was
always.
The line
But-
is good. The line is very good. Listen, we just want people to be responsible for themselves. Everybody works, everybody puts in their fair share. Yeah, that sounds reasonable, but we're not going to enact any policies that do that. Oh, what?
hold on. Oh, and
Yeah.
also we're
Yeah.
going to sprinkle in a lot of racism and
Yeah.
sexism in there.
But
too.
here's the thing. No abortions. We hate minorities. All right. Well, all right. Well,
I mean, no, I'm in the same boat.
less
When I was in
excited about this now.
when I was in high school, I listened to Rush Limbaugh. I mean, and it was
I'm hearing.
and it was terrible. I hate looking back on that aspect of my life, but
Well, you see, you guys should have done what I did. I didn't even register to vote until Trump ran the first time, and I only registered to vote against him.
I mean, it's a good reason.
So I never voted Republican. I just had not ever previously voted.
In fairness, neither did I, because obviously when I was in high school, I didn't vote. When I was in college, I didn't care enough to vote. And by the time I actually bothered out of college registering to vote, I had at least shifted enough that I was like, you know what, I'm not sure that I'm on board with these Republicans anymore.
Yeah.
I did not vote for Obama either time.
Oh, I would have voted for Obama for a third term if I could.
I've heard that about you.
That line is maybe one of the best lines about racism in any movie I've ever watched.
Yep.
It's just so fucking perfectly encapsulates that white guy.
Yep. Yeah. For me, it had nothing to do with national politics, but all about what he did to Illinois to get there. Like, I didn't appreciate that as a resident of the state that he was representing me. And it was just like, wow, man, you really didn't do shit. Not for us.
It is interesting too, because weirdly enough, when I was in I don't even know when it exactly would have been, but I remember it was like a summer job type thing, so probably college or whatever. I remember, or shortly after I got out of college, I remember reading articles in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch on profiles on Obama when he was first coming up. And, they were already talking about this is a guy who's got his eye on the presidency from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And as a citizen of Missouri, the articles were fairly positive about him. Like they played up what they felt were his good aspects because, it wasn't an Illinois newspaper, so we didn't have to worry about what he was doing as a state representative.
Sure. One of those times, maybe both of them. I know for a fact one of the times, and I'm pretty sure it was his second term, I did not vote for him, but I also didn't vote Republican. I voted for Clark Kent. I wrote it in. Like, I could not get behind either one, and I was just like, I'm not voting Republican this time.
Truth, justice.
But I'm also not going to vote for this guy. I
And
literally wrote in Clark Kent. I am one of those people who literally threw away their vote because I did vote for a not person.
I mean, you also live in a state where your presidential vote is irrelevant.
Right. Yeah.
It's true.
But what's funny is I also live in a county and district where it's very red. Well, the county, I take that back. The county is still blue because we're close enough to St. Louis. The counties around us, for the most part, are very red.
Deep red.
Yep. But even the city and the neighborhood I live in is fairly conservative, mostly because of the base.
Tony, there are no blue states, only blue cities.
Yeah, and in St. Louis, Missouri, there's 3.
Yeah, but none of them are big enough to counteract
outweigh
the rest of the red.
Yeah, it's because people keep leaving.
They leave the cities, yeah.
I was thrilled to see the Missouri governor decided to get on board with the let's stop paying unemployed people again with a bunch of other states.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Peter's a state rep, and so we're friends on Facebook, and he just breaks down all of the legislature fights that he gets in, and it's just deeply depressing. Like just deeply depressing. We've apparently refused like $10 billion in federal aid. We've just decided we're not going to take it. Just like $10 billion. We could just have it. Like,
and it's not like that money goes somewhere else at that point. It's waiting. It's just waiting there.
Just waiting. Just sitting around.
Oh, I know Illinois took theirs.
Yeah.
We always do. Yeah. We need to.
Missouri needs to too.
Yeah, Missouri badly needs to.
Missouri's a mess. God.
All right, I don't want to talk. Oh! Before we finish, you started watching Jupiter's Legacy yet?
Not yet.
I finished it. It's worth watching. I'm going to be bummed if it doesn't get a second season.
It's on my list of things that are supposed to excite me about the superhero RPG I'm going to be running starting like next week. So,
Did you start watching Invincible?
Invincible? I haven't yet. No. But the list is basically now Jupiter's Legacy, Invincible, and The Boys.
You should probably watch that list backwards from that order. The Boys, Invincible, and then Jupiter's Legacy.
Really?
Although I do think long-term, Jupiter's Legacy may be more interesting to me than Invincible. I think Invincible was better done, but there isn't a lot of mystery to Invincible. But there's a lot of, Jupiter's Legacy takes place in 2 time periods, like when the people first got their superpowers and then modern day. And there's a lot of inferred plot that has happened in between those 2 that they have not done anything with, but is very
it's definitely there.
It is there, and it's fleshed out, and the comics all have the shit in it, right? So I could just go read them and find out what happened. But also,
Yeah, the only thing I know going in for Jupiter's Legacy is apparently there's a lot of wigs.
There's a lot of wigs. Yeah, because like all the people they have in the beginning when they got their powers are just the actors, and then they age them up for the current time stuff. So there's just a lot of old, like young people in old makeup.
Yeah, I heard another podcast talking about that, and like they had generally positive reviews of it also. So I was curious to see what you think. So I'll put it on the list now because some of the stuff I was seeing was like, don't bother. It's just another piece of superhero bullshit. Like, okay, that's not really a review
Yeah, I mean,
because
it
I'm not
explores.
because I'm
Actually
also not going to
negative,
read.
right?
I'm not going to read any of your other stuff to see if I agree with you on it
Mhm.
because that would normally be. I mean, that's the thing about reading a critic. You kind of have to look at a body of work
Yep.
before you know if you can trust the criticism or at least
Mhm.
understand the criticism well enough to see the nuance in it. Um, Darren, who used to write for our website, he wrote a ton of critiques for us, just a ton of them, and I really liked reading his critiques of movies because he was very consistent in what he liked, what he didn't like, the things that that he enjoyed, the things that just turned him off about a movie. So if he was like, "Oh, this movie was garbage," it was just romance and it was just insipid. Like, all right, I cannot trust you. I cannot trust this critique because I knew how he felt about the
Yep.
subject. It's like this movie was so great. It's so cutting edge and so groundbreaking. It's like, oh, that means I might not be able to stomach this movie because like he had some tastes in movies they were pretty far out there and uh there was this one movie called Irreversible and like he raved about this movie and I watched it and there is this like it's kind of told backwards but it's a revenge movie about this woman who gets just brutally raped and it is on screen. Like it happens on screen. It's like I did not need that. I did not need the experience of watching like
And this guy gave it a glowing 5-star review.
right. So it's like okay, and there are ranges of movies in between. If he's raving about the action of the movie and the effects, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be right in line with what he like.
Mhm.
But I've read probably 100+ reviews of his too. So I knew where he fell on things and I knew how I reacted maybe differently than he would about certain things or where I really liked the same things that he did. I knew where I could trust him and where I couldn't. Just reading one review is so tough.
Because you don't know the context of the
Right.
reviewer.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Julie would tell me before we go see some of the early superhero movies, especially before they really mainstreamed up. She's like, "Oh, I read a review and they were really down on this movie." Where did you read the review? Oh, it was People Magazine. I don't, if it's Wired, maybe maybe I'll take their word for it. I just had a hard time. I get a little more critical about the content if I don't necessarily trust
The reviewer.
the reviewer.
Yeah, I will always take a personal recommendation over literally anything else.
Yep. So hearing that you enjoyed it and are looking
I
forward to
did
more,
enjoy it.
I will add it to my queue.
I did enjoy it quite a bit. I didn't.
And it's only 8 episodes, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
That's pretty short.
Yeah, I am gonna have to buy the comics. Just I'm not gonna like. It came out last week. I'm not gonna fucking wait 2 years to get resolution on some of this bullshit.
My understanding is you might want to look at like a Wikipedia page for the order in which to read the books too, because the books, from my understanding, are not named in a way that make logical sense and that tell you, oh, this is the order I should read them in, because it's like Jupiter's Legacy, Jupiter's Children, Jupiter's Circle.
Oh, okay, all right. I
So
see what
like,
you're saying.
yeah, so like once you have like Jupiter's Legacy, you read 1 through whatever of that, but then they tell other timelines of the story, and you don't necessarily know what timeline you're getting into just based on the name of the series.
All right, I'll do that then. Oh God, you know what I'm gonna have to do? I'm gonna have to watch this entire sequence where Jiraiya fights Pain in Naruto as soon as we're done here. Fuck, man. I don't know why I started thinking about that earlier, but it was like middle of this discussion. I was like, fuck. You know what was really goddamn badass? That Jiraiya Pain fight.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
Here's the really frustrating thing. The frustrating thing is the Naruto story is really good if you can cut out the 95% of the story that is meaningless. Like, it's a generational thing. Like, this storyline here is really fucking good. There's a lot of good stuff going on, but like, you gotta pan for gold to find the shit that's really fucking good.
Yeah, those anime mega series, I just can't do them. I just can't.
I mean, they've got the what's canon stuff to watch, but even then, like, you're like watching 5 minutes of one episode, and like they've got, like, you gotta like curate the thing down precisely, and I can't imagine nobody hasn't just like done a cut.
Yeah.
Where they just like piece together the shit you actually want to watch. But...
See, I think generationally the problem is that where you guys had that, my brain is now full of like Leave It to Beaver and Gilligan's Island and Batman 66 and I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched and Brady Bunch and like all those old series that like it just was fed through reruns and everything, that like I could tell you parts of it were good, but I know they weren't. Like, objectively, I know that they weren't, but in the nostalgia part of my brain, it's just like, oh, remember when that happened? And it's like, that was a moment in years worth of storytelling.
Yeah.
It was a moment. The rest of it wasn't great.
The rest of it's not great.
Nope.
God, this fight's so fucking. All right, I gotta go. I gotta get this started before I go to bed tonight.
All right, guys.
Well, enjoy yourself.
Yep. We'll talk next week about Bad Education, not the Hugh Jackman movie.
Yeah, maybe Anna will join us.
Sweet. It'd be nice. Be good to see her.